Double Labyrinth is a composition written in collaboration with members of Elysian Ensemble. This version will be for 5 players, so it's scored for recorders, harp, cello doubling on a nickel harper, percussion and double bass. It's really an ongoing project that can develop. There may be the possibility to add additional players at some point and to extend the duration of the work as well. So I came with a series of kind of mobiles really that the players could kind of work with and interpret quite freely. And my original intention was then to go away and finish the score. And in fact, what I chose to do in the end was to retain that sort of openness and that fluidity that's come out of this creative process. In the start of the piece is a series of duos and trios, but the way in which those trios and duos move around the ensemble is very much left to the players. So it's going to vary from one performance to the next.
Predominantly I use the bass recorder. It's quite a mellow instrument. I've also got the head joint turned around so the wind wave's facing towards me. It has this muted and overcast feeling to it, which I really enjoy.
At the beginning of the piece, it's dense but also quite light. It's a really interesting kind of atmosphere, which I guess presents some challenges for such a cumbersome instrument like the double bass and getting around. So there's a lot of experimenting around trying to keep this kind of velocity while also finding a sense of lightness as well.
When we are both playing at the same time, then it's interesting to try and find some material that does sort of overlap. You never know when you're going to latch on with another person.
I'm always a bit waiting for Freya to play. It's like, oh, come on, let's do something. But yeah, you never know who you're going to end up with, and that's the cool part as well, that you don't know what kind of sound world you're going to land in.
In the second section, Peter Neville moves to wooden percussion instruments, so making use of the xylophone and an Indonesian instrument called an angklung as well.
Bryn has picked 2 groups of instruments that are quite diametrically opposed. So we have quite resonant metal instruments on the one hand and the very fragile wooden sounds on the other. Well, the world of the percussionist is the world of endless sonic resources. In a way, it's about whittling down. A lot of the work with Bryn was going through instruments, trying to find the right ones for this work and seeing what matched with what and what wasn't so successful. It's kind of open and endless with percussion.
T-harp in Swedish, nyckelharpa. It's an old traditional folk instrument from Sweden. I like to think of it as a bit of a zebra. So it's got strings, it's got kind of a sideways keyboard like a piano, and it's also got a bow. And then it's also got 12 sympathetic strings underneath that resonate and create lots of frequencies that bounce around in the room, sort of like projecting the sound. And then it's also got a pedal string that you can't change the pitch of.
From there, there emerges these sort of drones. Marshall's playing with a bow at that point on the harp, and this kind of leads into the final section, which feels like almost like a sort of coda, a sort of end section, change of contrast to the very active material that's gone before.
I play a lot of different kinds of sized recorders, and they all have their own textural features. Probably the one that catches the ear straight away would be the one at the very end of the piece where I play a little sopranino recorder, and it creates these almost like cricket sounding noises where I use my lip to distort the sound a little bit. And it comes from a technique that's similar to Romanian kaval. That's probably where the biggest tradition of that kind of playing comes from.
The players are essentially playing from a set of parts that look like labyrinths. So the score almost has this kind of labyrinthine structure that comes out of my interest in the work of the painter, the artist Richard Dunn, who created this series of paintings called Double Labyrinth. When I looked at these labyrinths, there was almost a suggestion of something score-like. This work invites you to sort of navigate your own way around these labyrinths, to look for pathways through.
As I'm playing this, I can almost see myself inserting myself into the artwork. I feel very connected to these works, and I think the sonic exploration of the visual is absolutely, you know, one and the same. So I've known Richard Dunn for over 30 years. He's one of those friends that I can't quite remember where or how we met, but he's always been part of my life, certainly when I was living in Sydney. And Richard, as a visual artist, I always felt of him more as a musician in a way. He loved music, he loved the blues, he had this astonishing stereo system, he loved sound, and he loved musicians, and he loved the creative process that musicians brought to their craft. He dug into history. A lot of his visual art works, or his artworks, explored that intersection between the old and the new, and I think, you know, what we're dealing with in music is a history. We have a tradition that we play with, but we change it, and it's very malleable, and it becomes informed by others. So there was a sort of a circular thing with Richard: the music, the musicians, the physical artworks, the ideas, and it all became one. We always talked about music, and we always engaged about music, and right to the end, it was music that I think, for me, informed Richard's soul. He was a musician at heart. I know that Richard loved Elysian's work. I know he especially loved the extended techniques. He loved the sounds that we made, you know. He found that a very physical experience of sound. Well, Richard passed away earlier this year. It was very sudden, and yeah, it's left an enormous gap for us all. It was way too soon. It was only about a year ago that he had an exhibition here in Melbourne of his Albert Namatjira paintings, which we launched, and that was a joyous occasion, a sort of celebration, not quite a retrospective, but a celebration of his work. And to have him not here seems very odd. In fact, it's kind of hard to believe that he's not with us anymore. Richard was often stood at the back of a room and observed with a cheeky grin or a raised eyebrow, and I miss the cheeky grin and the raised eyebrow. I think he'd be immersed in this piece. I think he'd absolutely get it. Even yesterday in the rehearsal, we had 3 run-throughs, and the third one was completely different to the first one, which was an indication of how magical this piece is. It does change. It depends on the audience and the room and the energy. But the framework, as I say, it's this exploration, this expedition that we go on, is intriguing to me. So thank you again.
Thank you.